Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all happy podcast. I am your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach KG, and I'm in the house.
And real quick, I am so excited. I can't wait to announce this. Well, I suppose we have before, but the challenge officially starts in 2 days. And if you're saying, what challenge? This is our New Year's challenge. This is our biggest challenge of the year. This is a 30-day challenge where we are going to work with you one-on-one to help you reach your goals. And we're going to be doing criteria together. Myself, Kyle, the other coaches are going to be shredding alongside you, as well as offering you the support to see it through, so that this isn't like last year where maybe you set a goal, you didn't get where you want to be, or maybe you're even worse off and you're further behind in your goal. This is your chance to actually put your money where your mouth is, commit to yourself and say, I'm going to take my goals serious in 2025 to start this month and this year with some focus, some intention, so you can build your best physique ever. And just know that when you sign up with me and Kyle, our coaching is fully guaranteed or your money back, so you have nothing to worry about. That's how much we stand behind our program. I'm going to be doing custom one-on-one programming for you based on what you have available, your time frame, your expertise level, as well as just where you're at in your journey, your strengths, your weaknesses. I'm going to be assigning your nutrition that I'm going to be changing consistently and constantly to make sure that you're able to enjoy the most amount of food, have no food restrictions, and still see incredible measured progress. And I'm going to give you everything else you need and give you unlimited support throughout that, unlimited questions, one-on-one video check-ins. Really don't miss out on this. This is your chance to jump into something amazing, to see incredible change, and this starts in 2 days. So to secure your spot, message me on Instagram with the keyword challenge, and I look forward to taking care of you and making this your best year yet. My Instagram is at Colossusfit, COLOSSUSFIT. Just DM me challenge to get started. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into our first primary question, which we're really excited about. Obviously, it's almost a new year. This is a really exciting time, a lot of momentum around the corner. And with that, I thought this was a perfect question to lead off with. So the question is, with New Year's right around the corner, how do you set routines, goals, and habits to actually see them through?
So this is a fantastic question, and I love this because I have been setting New Year's goals. I don't say resolutions, but I say goals for the last few years, and I've definitely had some times where I've done it improperly. Like I look back, I think it was in 2020 and I have a notepad still. I try to keep them because I can reflect back on my progress. I take screenshots and, maybe sometimes revisit some things, but I had 20 goals set and I accomplished like maybe 5 of them. So small percentage of it is 25% accomplished. Some people may say, hey, that's great that you did 5 things still. I don't like that. So I've learned that it's really important to keep the list very specific. Like, it's so easy to sit there on a comfortable day and just come up with 50 things that you want to do. And once again, I've done something like that, but at the same time, that's just too much and it's too overwhelming. Now, with that, I want to give you one of the best things that you can do when you do goal set is when you set that one goal, kind of create 3 different categories from that goal. And those are going to be the things that you're going to do to get there. So let's just use fitness as an example. I'm going to lose, 50 pounds this year, or let's say 20 pounds this year, and that's going to be my goal. Now, it's so easy to just leave it at that, but from there, you need to write out action tasks. The first thing could be taking Colossus Fitness up on that offer that we have for the challenge. That's going to be the first thing I'm going to do. I'm also going to take control of my nutrition. I'm going to grocery shop weekly and make sure that I'm using my FitnessPal consistently. That's another thing you're going to do. The next thing could be workouts. And with that, you actually have steps to get you there. And I know so many people who will just make up this goal. They're super comfy, they're excited, and they set it and then they forget it. And that's just not going to work. So that's going to be my biggest action task that I think can 100% help you out in so many different ways.
Yeah, I think to Kyle's point, that's fantastic because goals are just goals. It's very easy just to have a ton of them. It's very easy to keep them to yourself and not want to announce them. Even recently, Kyle had mentioned one of our friends had a goal and he said, I was scared to tell you because I didn't want to fail it and then be judged for it or something. But with that, actually saying, how will I actually make this goal happen is the biggest thing, because if you set goals and you never achieve them, you're just a talker. These are just dreams. They're not something you actually believe. To me, goals are something I can see myself getting towards, or at least moving closer towards. So as Kyle said, there's some years I crush rush majority of my goals. There's a lot of years upon reflection. Like I think this year I hit 2 goals out of my 10 goals for the year, which sounds like it was an absolute failure and it was the worst year ever. But I can say I moved closer to all 10 of those goals. I just know I have more opportunity to see them through or to physically hit that goal. I also believe in setting bolder goals. We've read the book 10X, and that really inspired us to think bigger, because I would rather fall short of a goal that's 10 times the size of my original goal than barely achieve that goal that's 1x of where I could be. Because even if you're like halfway to that 10x goal, that's 5 times better than just setting that 1x goal. Now, of course, it needs to be something you believe, something that's realistic. But to Kyle's point, if you want to lose 100 pounds in a year, like you're going to need to break down the numbers on that. You're going to actually have to make that change. And oftentimes the hardest thing is getting started and beginning that process of seeing some progress. But if you say, hey, I'm serious about this, I'm signing up for this challenge, I'm going to have a coach, it's fully guaranteed, like I'm going to use this to vault myself into more success, that's how you can actually make these goals something you believe in. And if you're setting goals and never achieving them, you're going to be lying to yourself constantly, and you're just going to put no stock in it, and you're not going to see yourself as a serious person. So if you want to change that, you're going to have to do what Kyle said and really start to break that down into like how it can actually be done, having mechanisms of accountability for yourself. And we have done episodes previously on goal setting, but this is where it's really important, and they need to be within the realm of reason. And you're going to need to put in that work when you feel like it. You're going to need to put in that work when you don't feel like it. Anything to add with that?
I just really like the concept of different categories within goals. So I like the concept of health. That's always going to be number one. Wealth/career would be another one. Relationships, friends, family, all that other stuff. And then I like the other one is like adventures. So that's something that we're big into, is kind of setting the goals of maybe different conferences, going to a different place, maybe a snowboarding trip, and just going to different places. So, even for me, if it was like Colossus Fitness blew up this year and we just accomplished every goal that we have set there, but then I let my health slide and my family slide and be like, no, that's not going to be acceptable. That's not what I want to do this year. So I really like breaking down goals, like not only monthly, but also like yearly, just into different categories. So that way you're kind of a well-rounded person. I was going to say athlete because I'm so used to using that terminology, especially for some of the content I've created lately. But so that's my last thing there. And, just get started on it, get people to hold you accountable. The challenge is the great spot to start on this, because we are focused on habit creation, not just simply set these goals, try to lose weight and like do something unrealistic. Like we want to build you to be the best possible version of yourself. And when you do come into the program, we're not just focused on losing weight, which is an amazing goal and you will get there, but so many other things, and having a group of people do it with you, it makes such a big difference. So that's all I have to say there.
Yeah, and if you want to see serious change, like going back to the start of the question, you do need to set goals that scare you. So at the end of 2023, I set the goal to read a book a week, which is $52 a year, which is absolutely bonkers. I didn't think I'd do it. And then I started doing it. I'm like, you know what, I can do this. And like in reflection, it's like, wow, I'm so glad I did that. I got so much knowledge, so much motivation. It expanded my thoughts, my horizon. And that's from me undertaking and actually penciling something that was a little bit uncomfortable, that was a little bit scary. Like it was very doable though. Like $52 in a year sounds insane, and most people don't even read one book in a year. But if you look at it as a book a week, it's like I can work within that criteria. Maybe there's weeks where I can do 2, maybe there's weeks where a book takes me 2 weeks, whatever it may be. But like anything, as Kyle said, breaking down goals into different criteria is so important. And one thing I'll say about goal setting is I've been doing a lot of it and it's been on my mind. I've taken pretty much the last week to start poking and penciling and thinking and really putting down good goals, as goals shouldn't be rushed. If you just throw goals out, and a lot of people just say, I want abs this year, I want to marry a supermodel, and I want to be a pro athlete. And it's just like, you're not going to put much stock in it. It's not going to be serious to you. Whereas if you can really put goals that move you forward, that actually inspire you, that you get you excited, that make you want to do the work to reach them, that's how you're actually going to see these goals through and have success within these goals. So like when you go to the grocery store, you shouldn't go to the grocery store hungry, because you're going to get garbage, right? You want to go when you're full and you want to go with a clear level mind. So you shouldn't set goals, I think, when you're uninspired or you're demotivated. You need to get yourself motivated. And we've done episodes on this. Obviously, it's hard to just get yourself fired up. But for me, I'll watch a lot of motivational videos. I'll do some reading. I'll sit down and just think, and I'll reflect on the wins I have had in this year and in my life, and think of how I'd like to build on them. But when you're in a better mind state, that's where you can actually set goals that will inspire you, that will be more realistic. And for me, like I said, this process takes hours and hours, but these goals become the guiding force for my year. And they can really kind of keep me grounded because I like to review my goals daily. Every single morning, I'll look at my yearly goals, I'll look at my monthly goals, and I'll write down like 3 little goals for the day. And this is what works for me. And by breaking it down the month into the year and then to the day, that makes it very bite-sized. And I know the exact actions I need to have, because if I have a goal of 52 books in a year, I need to read a book a week. I need to be reading daily, and I need to kind of do that to a certain metric. And the same with fitness. With weight loss, it's very easy to break down. If you have a saving goal, it's very easy to break down. So by getting in there and getting inspired about it, that's how it's actually going to stick. And within that process, by taking time and really finding what works for you. Everyone does a little different, as you can see with how Kyle sets them, how I set them, but it needs to be something that holds stock for you. I think even guiding principles for the year, if you have like 3 rules where you say, I'm going to say yes to everything. Maybe you're really introverted, you don't do much, and you just usually say no to people. Maybe for a year you say, I'm going to say yes to everything within reason. So your friends want to go out, you're like, let's do it. They want to go on a trip, let's do it. You want to go to the gym, let's do it. Like for some people that gets them very inspired. For others, that's not what they need at all. They need to start saying no more, and that could be one of their goals for the year. For others, it can be like, I'll get to the gym this many times, or I'll work fitness into my health each day. So you can see how they can be as specific or as abstract as you'd like, but the more you can narrow in and the more they can have weight to you personally, the more they'll actually motivate you to move forward.
Man, that was so well said about the rushing point, because I didn't even think about how many people actually do that. Like January 1st comes, you've got, a little bit of time. You probably went out the night before and you're like, I need to do it. And obviously you do it too late as well. That's another thing that people may make mistakes on, but people don't realize, like when Josh and I are talking about like growth and, the new year and just goal setting, is like, it's an ongoing thing. Like it's like the last few weeks have been like reflecting on why something didn't work. How are we going to improve it? What's a realistic goal to set with it? And how are we going to accomplish it going forward? And it's like, it needs to be a strategic approach for you to actually be able to see it through, because most people, and it says around 80% of people fail their resolutions or their goals they set. And I think it's by February that most people do as well. And that's because it's just like, you just kind of make things up. You're just like, oh, this sounds nice to do. And you're like, there's no strategy, there's no planning, and there's no reflecting. And that's why I really hope these tips help you with your New Year's resolutions and goals.
Yeah, we'd love to talk about goals for an hour and a half, but we'll cap it there. We've done dedicated episodes previously. We'd love to elaborate more. If you have any sub-questions to this question, please feel free to submit them. The best way is over Instagram. You can always shoot them over there. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us a follow too. Lots of great content there. And we're going to jump into our quote segment of this podcast now. So I'm going to share a quote that really inspired me and got me thinking this week. So my quote is, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. And this is from Maya Angelou. And what I love about this is there's so many things I can think about, especially as I have been reflecting. This podcast was something we had talked about probably for a year about starting, and we should do a podcast. And immediately people that want to do this go, well, I'm not an audio engineer. I don't know how to make audio sound nice. I don't understand mics. What mic do I buy? And it's really it's overwhelming. Like, it's hard to find what the best mic is, how to plug it into your computer, what recording software to do, how do you edit audio, what if people don't like what you say, what's your name, how are you going to share? Like, it's so easy to overthink your way out of doing anything. But I love this adage of like doing the best you can until you know better. Like, you can't expect coming to fitness and have the same experience level as me and have the same understanding, but there's nothing wrong with starting out. And if you're just doing your best and you have the ability to learn to do it better, that's where you can improve. And I love the podcast example because we had started the podcast, I believe we primarily began filming it in Kyle's car. He had a Challenger. It's not a super massive car. We'd sit in the car seat. We'd put a boom mic that we'd use for our YouTube videos facing in the middle of us. So it's probably like you're getting one of us in each ear. And we would talk. And this worked well in the fall or spring or whatever it was. And then summer came and it got ridiculous. We'd have to take breaks to bump the AC and do these things. And then we're like, oh, this audio could be better. And we were trying to find other things. And different situations have come up. We've had great spaces that we've lost. We're doing it in my dining room right now, and it still looks pretty nice. If you're watching on YouTube, we've made it work. We've done it in Kyle's garage. Like, it's just about getting things done and improving and doing it the best you can. But like I said, if you're waiting for the perfect situation for your fitness, to where you don't have kids, to where you're less busy, to where your career's on track, to where they open up that new gym that's being built in a year from now. Like, there never is that perfect time. The only time you realistically have is now. And the adage of just getting started, like, even if you want to get fit, like, just go out on a walk, like, do something. And oftentimes the hardest part is getting started. So I love that example of imperfect action beats perfect action every time, because it's so easy to talk about when you're going to do things perfectly, but had we waited till we had a perfect space and perfect equipment, we would have never done it. And by us just saying, hey, we're going to take a stab at this, we're going to figure it out. A lot of episodes were filmed and lost to mistakes. That's part of the fun of the game. So this quote, to me, like, when I saw it, I was so excited to share it. So that's my quote for this week.
I like that. It kind of reminds me of a quote that we stand behind. It's commit now, figure out the rest later. And that's just such a great quote to be thinking about, especially as we are going into this new year, and a lot of people trying to navigate the gyms. As we know, January 1st, the gyms get a lot busier, and just a lot of people are just figuring it out. So hey, commit, get started on your journey, show up for yourself. I promise you continue to show up. Next year, when we do some reflection, you will be in such a great spot, especially if you do join us on this challenge. So anyways, my quote here is, you don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for. So I like this quote because, once again, we're on the topic of goals and thinking of the future and the new year and all that stuff. And there are going to be a lot of people wishing, right? You have a wish list of, I guess not even a wish list, but you just have a list of things you want to do. But, unfortunately, if 1 month goes by, 6 months, a year, and you have all these wishes and goals and thoughts and things that you say you're going to do, that's awesome. But those are just thoughts. Like, you just put that into existence and you just said, hey, I want to do this, but you never actually did it. It's those consistent workouts, the consistent healthy meals, the walks, everything that you work for is where the results are going to come from, So that's going to be my message for you going into this new year, is that every single time you show up, it's an investment into yourself. You're going to start to see some incredible results long term. And yeah, you don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for.
Incredibly well said, and we'll carry that forward with what has us excited and intrigued for this week. And if you're new around here, I'll just give you a quick breakdown. We like Motivation Monday as just an opportunity to get you motivated, and there's a lot of different things that motivate us. We love quotes, we love questions. We see a lot during the week that personally inspires us. We try to always be learning. Like I said, 52 books in a year. I'm listening to podcasts, books, absorbing articles, doing everything I can to improve my skill set and knowledge as a trainer and as an expert in fitness, to be able to help you get better results and become fitter, healthier, and happier. So the format is, we start with a primary question, we go into our quotes, we share some of these things we found on the week, we take a client shout out so we can learn from someone who's crushed in our program, who has transformed, and we learn their top tips so we can take them and apply them to our journey. Then we finish up with some other impactful questions. So we're into the what has us excited or intrigued, and I just saw this little 4-line mantra, if you will, that I thought was fantastic, and that is: hope for the best, prepare for the worst, expect nothing, savor everything. And it sounds a little bit intense, but I like this concept of being an optimist, because hoping for the best is being optimistic, right? So maybe you feel horrible one day and you don't want to go to the gym and you're dead tired and you're like, oh, I realized I forgot my shoes, I'm going to have to work on my boots. But you could say, you know what, I'm going to make the most out of this. I'm going to be positive. Maybe the gym's not that busy. Maybe it'll end up being a fantastic workout. Maybe it'll be a great story. Maybe another day when I'm less motivated, I'll say, hey, I did it that day, so I can carry that forward. But in the same regard, generally when we're preparing for the worst, it's like, do I have backup gym clothes? Like, maybe you're at the gym and you went so hard that you're just covered in sweat and you're not happy, or you're not happy how you smell, and you can spritz a cologne or deodorant, whatever it is. Like, the more you can prepare for these situations but still be optimistic for them, have limited expectations but still appreciate everything about that moment, I just think that's a winner's mindset, because all 4 of these lead to you taking control for your individual situation, as opposed to blaming circumstance, blaming whatever situation because you weren't prepared, having unrealistic expectations, even to the point of expectations. Like I said, I was goal setting, so I've watched hours and hours of motivational videos this week. But Usain Bolt had a quote that I shared with Kyle, and I just thought it was so powerful. He said, I spent 4 years training to run 9 seconds, and most people give up when they don't see results in 2 months. And like, that is just a result of unrealistic expectations. And that, to the goal point, like, you need to be real with what it will take to get where you want to go. Losing 10 pounds is really hard. Losing 100 pounds is extraordinarily hard. Losing more than 100 pounds is ridiculously hard. Like, these things aren't easy. And to Kyle's point, if they were easy, everyone would do it. And to that point, you really need to savor every component of this journey, because there won't ever be a specific place where you fully made it. And you need to appreciate the ins and outs of that journey, and that will make the journey way more enjoyable. But I just think the pairing of all of that and having this type of attitude as you approach into the new year can be really empowering for you. So that was one big thing I had. The second thing I was thinking a lot about that I love, and something I really challenge a lot of my clients with, and I have this week as more people have gotten sick, is that if you struggle somewhere, excel somewhere else. So what are you able to control when something isn't going your way, and how can you improve that? And the example of being sick to me is probably one of my favorites. Perhaps you're too sick where you can't go to the gym. You're just like, this sucks. This is an opportunity for you to actually rest. This is your chance. Maybe your body's saying, slow down, rest, recover. And I'm not just talking about eat junk and do nothing. I'm talking about do what really nourishes you. Do you love doing arts and crafts? Do that. Do you love calling friends and catching up with family? Spend some time nourishing yourself that way. Do you like just having a long bath and chilling out watching TV? Power to you too. But during this time, when one thing doesn't go for us, it's easy to have the attitude of, this sucks. I can't work out. I'm going to eat garbage. I'm going to treat myself poorly. I'm going to stay up. But no, instead you can say, okay, I can't go to the gym. I have all this extra time. Maybe I'm finally going to try cooking something new. Maybe I'm going to eat healthier than I ever have. Maybe I'm going to crush my protein every single day. And I've been slacking with my water. I'm going to crush my water this whole time so I can recover and feel better. And just the same, if you're losing a ton of sleep with kids, and for me, I'm like, oh, there's days where you're just dead. You're like, okay, how can I still savor this and make this a great day? I'm like, I can use my friend caffeine. I can have a killer workout that can ground me. I can bank some really good walks. I can still eat extraordinarily healthy. So whenever there's something pulling you, there's always something pulling you away from where you want to be. There's always something you can do to push yourself closer to where you want to be. And I think a lot of people would say, hey, I have no money, so I'm not able to do what I want to do. But you have so much time and ability perhaps to just train and focus on training intensely. And maybe you have the opposite problem. You have a lot of money and no time. It's like, how can you utilize that money to get help to maximize your time per dollar? Like with having a coach, instead of researching things, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do, how to eat. I'm going to support you in these tough situations. I'm going to be able to make your routine where you spend less time in the gym and see more results. So you really need to work with where you're at and find that silver lining. And if you start to do this, you'll just be blown away with the results you'll be able to achieve.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, the quote, it's easy to find excuses when you're looking for them. It's easy to find solutions when you're also looking for them. So even with Josh's example of like sickness, I like that, because it's like a lot of people don't understand the concept of just like, if you're injured, you're sick, like there's so much that you can still do. Like sometimes we'll give these suggestions to people and like, I never thought about that. Like, you are right to take up whatever it is that I was missing or neglecting. So yeah, I thought that was great. Very, very well said.
Even to jump in, yesterday, Kyle thought he had pink eye, but something was stuck in his eye. So obviously with pink eye, he's like, I'm not going to the gym. This is so annoying. This sucks. But he's like, I have this list of stuff I'm going to bang out. I'm just going to make this an intense work day. Some of these things I've been putting off, I'm going to tackle them head on. And like that's a winner's mentality. Instead of boohoo, I can't go to the gym, my eye, this and that. It's like, maybe I can't go to the gym, but I could crush more work and then I'll have more time to have a more lavish workout in the future. So I just thought that was another bonus, very applicable situation to where we were at.
Yeah, you're always looking for the positives even during these negative times, because it is easy to get overwhelmed. Like I'm sitting there, I'm demotivated. I'm like, man, this sucks. I can't go. Like, how do I fix this? And then, you figure it out. That's what life is all about. But my quote here, quite simple. It's, or not quote, sorry. My thought is just like, imagine this year, like you're just, everything you do, you have someone kind of, I guess you could say like checking in on you, holding you accountable, following you around, I guess you could say. Like, what different decisions would you make? So you could use Josh and myself as an example. Like, let's say on your fitness journey, if we're always around you, you're making your food decisions, you're in the gym and you decide you want to skip deadlifts and you're like, what would they say about that? Like, just that concept alone, I think, can make you such a different person. And even myself, there's a few days I didn't work out with Josh, so I'm just like, man, it's easy to skip out on the harder stuff. Like, that's what I want to do. Like, no matter how motivated I am, I'm like, man, I'm tired. I just trying to make excuses, right? But I'm like, man, if he was here right now, we would be doing it. I can't skip out on this. So I just think the concept of like always, because most people operate with their fitness journey with no one checking in, no one caring, no one will call you out. And that's why you're going to struggle and not succeed, because nobody's on your side. So just think of that the next time that you want to kind of cheat or challenge, or I guess you could say kind of not navigate the journey the way that you should be. It's just like there's someone checking in on you. There's a little angel on top just kind of like being like, hey, put that thing down. And once again, you can still enjoy fun foods. We follow flexible dieting. But the point is that when you think of like someone by your side who's going to actually call you out, it makes a difference. And one thing is we actually do as much of this as we physically can. Obviously, we can't live with you. We're not going to go follow you around and do boot camps. But the point is when you have accountability, you operate so differently. When you know you have to fill in a spreadsheet with us every single week, when you have to check in and do a video check-in with your coach, when you have to check in and when I say, hey, did you get the workout in? You have to respond back to me. Like it makes you such a different person. So just think about that and I hope it helps.
Yeah, I know a lot of clients and just individuals who like yourself who listen to this podcast have had success in the past where people have struggled to get to the gym and they've used the example of pretend me and Kyle are meeting you at the gym at the time you need to be there. You'd show up on time. You'd find a way. You'd get yourself right. You'd be excited and ready. So, hey, if you have to pretend me and Kyle are coming and that motivates you, do it. Or maybe we'll show up one day. You'll never know. That could be the day. It's funny. Like I go to the gym as some of my clients and sometimes I'll see them and they're like, okay, I got to work extra hard because I know you're looking. So like Kyle's point, I think it is good to have that mindset of just saying I'm going to operate at that level, even if people aren't looking directly. So that's incredibly well said. And with this challenge, as we had mentioned, like I really make it a point to know what's going on in my clients' lives, where they're at. Maybe they're parents, maybe they're busy professionals, maybe they've struggled with this particular thing in the past. And my job as a coach is to help you solve these problems. It's a fresh perspective. It's someone who's not emotionally attached to them. And my thing is I know everyone can succeed because I've seen people from the hardest, toughest situations succeed and lose hundreds of pounds in impossible situations. And I've seen people find solutions that they didn't know were possible. So you're holding yourself back if you're missing out on that. And with this challenge, I just wanted to note too, there's thousands of dollars in prizes. We're doing top 3 transformations. So this is your chance to get in there and really challenge yourself for 30 days and be rewarded for it. Got AirPods Max being given out, gift cards, t-shirts, so much more. And like I said, thousands to be given to those top 3 people. So this is your chance. DM us challenge to Instagram at Colossusfit to jump in. Don't miss out on it. And now we're going to jump into our client shout out, someone who's been in the program, who's been killing it, and who's been seeing amazing change.
Alrighty, so for this week, we are shouting out Jorge, and he has done such an incredible job on his journey. This is one of those transformations where we've shared in the past, and he's just going to continue to be shown because he's done such a great job. And Coach Krista had shared in our client win chat the other day this photo, and it's one of those ones where I just instantly stopped. So we actually have a chat with all of our coaches, and we share wins, transformations, texts, just updates, just to see how everyone's crushing it. And it's just an amazing little group there. And yeah, once again, this was one of those ones where it's just like, holy, and he's just consistently showed up. It's funny because actually this is one of the things that Jorge actually reached out to us for was the New Year challenge in the past, and that's what started his entire journey. And I always talk about the quote, you're one decision away from a completely different life. And I think that's so powerful because a lot of people don't realize how much that one thing, by you saying, you know what, I'm going to try this, or I'm going to sign up for the gym this year, or I'm going to reach out to that person, like how much it can change your life. And like these 2 photos alone are so impactful because he's done such a great job. His life has changed. His relationship with others has changed. Him and his wife both got shredded with us on the journey as well. Once he got started, his wife Deanne came in and said, hey, I'm going to give it a shot. And look at her now. We'll post a photo of her past transformation with us, which she did such a great job. So the point is that all you have to do is get started, just invest in yourself. And one other final note here is just try to get others around you on the same page. So obviously for them, it was a lot easier, both on the journey, doing, this healthy lifestyle together, and they just absolutely crushed it as well. So super proud of this one. And I couldn't be happier here to see the results that's taken place.
Yeah, and I'm sure the version of himself a year ago is so proud of himself because if you go to our Instagram and you see this transformation, he's dialed. He's got shredded abs. He's looking just tight and strong. And once again, it's that one decision that can change everything. And if you're not moving towards your goals, you're either staying the same or worse, moving away. So you're going to have to make some change just like he did and let him be your example of where you're going to be next year. So once again, message us challenge to our Instagram to jump into this. Don't miss out on it. It's going to be a ton of fun. There's a lot going on for it, exclusively for the individuals in the challenge. We're doing weekly live streams. Like I said, prize to be given, one-on-one coaching. So you're not just on the journey yourself. You have a coach, you have a team of coaches above you, then you have a community above you of like-minded people who are crushing it. So this is going to give you every opportunity to actually succeed. So we really look forward to having you join. Once again, just send that message, challenge us on Instagram, Colossusfit. You'll thank us that you did. So our second question, this is a fun one. How do you get someone who is 20-ish% body fat, a six pack in 30 days? So this is a tall order because generally you don't start seeing abs till about sub 12% body fat. For some people, it's sub 10% body fat. And this is incredibly nuanced. Everyone is very different. For me, I can usually see my abs if I'm 15, 16, 17% body fat. Kyle wouldn't see them until he gets a little bit lower. And that's just genetics. And just the same, I have to be extraordinarily lean to have a lot of shoulder veins. Kyle will have shoulder veins if he's 1,000,000 pounds. It just, every body is different. So I can't say it'll be the same for everyone, but what I would have someone do would be the same. So first of all, I don't think this is a very realistic time frame, but I do think, gun to your head, I could get this done for someone. And obviously it would require you to be very locked in. It would require a lot more sacrifice than you would probably enjoy. But as a fun thought exercise, what I would tell this individual to do to make this happen, first and foremost, is to be in a respectable deficit. You would definitely be wanting to lose 2 to 4 pounds a week. Probably you would need to be more towards 4 pounds a week, which is more than I would recommend losing, because when you lose too much too fast, unless you're significantly overweight, you will be losing more muscle than is necessary. And that's where crash dieting has a lot of pullbacks. It has a lot of pullbacks hormonally. It has a lot of pullbacks in terms of energy. It'll be harder to do what you need to do, because when you're pulling back, you're either pulling back calories or you're increasing output of activity, both which will sap energy from your body and will directly make the process harder. So that's where it is a very balanced game, where if you tip the scales too far, you can easily burn someone out. But once again, I would really make sure you're in a respectable deficit. I would really make sure you're prioritizing protein, prioritizing volume-based foods. So a lot of fiber, a lot of vegetables, a lot of lean meat, so you can feel as sated as possible. So you're as full during this process. You're getting the most amount of micronutrients. I'd be really on top of just your supplementation in terms of definitely like having multivitamins, vitamin D, just giving yourself every opportunity to succeed. So in terms of nutrition, you would need to be in that deficit. I would highly recommend 2 to 4 pounds a week at that point if you really wanted to crash into a six pack. Past that, I would have you training 6 times a week extraordinarily hard. This will require you to have a lot of sleep, to have a lot of time, and it will burn you out. You'll be very uncomfortable probably for the first 2 weeks, but you'd be amazed how you would adapt into this, and this would directly support you losing fat and getting towards a six pack. Within this, obviously the split, there's a million different ways we could do this. Once again, you could make this happen with less days in the gym, but if we're talking the most optimal way to achieve this, more volume will achieve it. But the pullback, like I said, is if you don't have the energy and your workout quality sucks, you're going to lose from this. But by getting you in there, lifting heavy, doing these difficult movements, this will directly support you losing fat, which will help you visually see those abs more and more. Past that, I would have you walking probably 1 to 2 hours a day. I'm obviously cardio, like I said, will it really push more energy out, but walking is fantastic because it requires not too much energy and it's actually replenishing. For the most part, it's good for your muscles and it's not overly hard. It's a lot more difficult to go for a jog. It's even more difficult to go sprinting and it's going to exhaust you more. But by increasing your output of activity, this will directly support that weight loss goal, and this will help you lean out more radically fast. People that are significantly overweight, I always recommend them just by starting by getting a step goal, then bridging them into the gym and having them advance towards that. But if you're doing these things and resting, it is absolutely possible to get a six pack from 20-ish% body fat in 30 days. Like I said, even if you're at that 4 pounds a week, like we're only looking at about 16 pounds lost. And this will be very different if you're 300 pounds at 20% body fat, which would be very hard. You'd be very tall, and it'd be very different if you're 110 pounds. You perhaps would need to lose as much. So as a thought exercise, that's generally how I do it. But I think you can apply these principles to anyone who wants to get abs. You can do these things less radically, where you can be in a respectable deficit, eating good food, utilizing 80-20, still having fun things. You can go to the gym 4 to 5 to 6 times a week and still see progress and be more reasonable within it. And then you can have a step goal, you can rest and recover well. And that really is what training is broken down into.
Yeah, I really recommend for those of you who are like goal setting, and we do get a lot of questions of this, like, hey, I've got something going on next month, like I need to do this. And, you know, one of my biggest recommendations as you are starting to think of goals and what you want to accomplish is just like give yourself a bit more time than you think you need, especially because this question, like, for example, if you gave yourself like 90 days, like 3 months, man, you'd be in such a great spot. You'd have time to like bring the calories up afterwards to a nice maintenance. Like you'd make sure you lose zero muscle mass. Like it'd be a very pleasant experience. Like even for us when we work with people and we get them ready for weddings, for vacations, for everything, and we have that 90-day time frame, it is such a great experience. Like hearing everything here, I'm like crumbling inside because I'm like, oh, like 30 days is just such a short amount of time. Like obviously within the challenge, you can do such great things, and we're gonna work with you to build that out afterwards. But I do think sometimes people will give themselves too short of a time. But yeah, that was a great point that you had there, and I hope that helps.
Yeah, and it's hard to snap into a mindset of perfection if you've been pretty lackluster, just really horrible with diet, training, and all these things. So it's not really representative. But once again, theoretically, it could be done. And it would also be very taxing physically, mentally, and it would require a ridiculous amount of your time. Like if I'm having you walk like 2 hours a day and you're working out for an hour and a half and then you're prepping, and like this is where fitness actually could take 5 hours of your day. Whereas for me, fitness maybe takes an hour and a half of my day. And obviously I have a six pack and all these things. And that's just because I've been doing it consistently. And that's where we say consistent effort compounds, and it's way better than massive action for a small amount of time. So like Kyle said, expanding that goal and really being realistic within it is a much better approach towards it. But theoretically, like the sky is the limit to what you can do in fitness when you really lock in. So that was a really fun question, especially into the new year, because I know a lot of people are going to be wanting a six pack. But into our third question, what are the diet myths that you see people believing that just aren't true? And fun fact, Kyle's been starting a Myth Busting Monday YouTube series on our YouTube. So if you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, you can check that out there. Kyle's posted some amazing content. He's got more planned, but he's been looking a lot into the myths. So I'm going to let him start this one off.
It's been on my mind because I find so many people like in convos, like I'll be at the gym and I'll hear someone say, oh, I heard that, fasted cardio is the way to do this. And like, you'll hear someone talking about it. And I'm like, so obviously I just sit there and I'm like, is this really true? Okay, let's look at the studies. Let's see what people have to say. And does this actually make sense? And so that has been proven to not be a myth. Like or to not be true. It doesn't really matter. So I just hear a lot around like fasting being the best thing ever, keto being superior. Like the main thing in 2024 right now, as we're going into 2025, I find is that a lot of people are praising these specific diets to be the greatest and the most beneficial thing in the world, when it's just them making that up, and that's what they believe and it's the way they live, and they're trying to sell a product off of that and a service. And I would say that's one thing that really drives me nuts, is like you can get to your goal using whatever it is as long as you stick to it. So whoever's out there saying this is the way to do it, they're going to be likely quite incorrect, because there's a lot of ways to do it. And then the other thing is just food demonization. So it's going into a grocery store, standing there with this specific product, saying how it's going to kill you and why, and they're just making it up, because a lot of these videos do well because people comment, they argue, they share, and they know what they're doing, these people. So I would say that's a very common myth, that people are just saying, these things are going to harm you, when in reality, anything in moderation will be totally fine. Like if you go into a grocery store and you stand there and you say cereal is the death of you, and I'm in the process of making a video with regards to this as well to end 2024, but so that's why it's been on my mind, because I've been trying to find all those clips of Paul Saladino in the store yelling about oatmeal, and then someone else yelling about cereal, and then someone else about bagels. And so that's a big myth, that like you can't fit any of this stuff in and be a healthy individual, because anything in moderation, you'll be totally fine. And I can promise you that.
Yeah, I'd say Kyle summed it up so well. And truthfully, anything that like is an aha that it's going to fix all your problems, you're like, wow, keto, I didn't realize that's what I've been doing wrong. I wasn't on keto. Like for 99 out of 100 people, it actually isn't going to be a long-term solution. And like, if you're new around here, I can understand the appeal of wanting something like that, especially if you have failed previously. But the reality is like it does not need to be complicated, and simple is how you see the best results, by tracking your food, eating a deficit if you want to lose fat, eating a surplus if you want to gain weight and muscle, being consistent with that, training consistently and sleeping well. Like that's all it comes down to. And we all know that. It's just oftentimes in the push and pull of life, it's hard to do that. The weekends come around, you go off the rails, you have a day where you just want to ignore everything, or a week or a couple weeks, and the weight stacks up. Like it's very hard battling against life as it exists, but basic works for a reason. And the more you can ignore the noise, the less you're going to try something that succeeds for a week and then crash and end up in a worse place because of it and feeling more lost. So don't get sucked into these myths. We've done specific myth breaking episodes previously, and Kyle will be doing more of them one-on-one on YouTube if you're more curious about that. We'd also be happy to do sub episodes. So if you want to submit something, absolutely feel free. We would love to comment on it. But that was a really amazing episode. Obviously, the last episode of 2024. And it was such a phenomenal year. And we just want to thank everyone for sharing their raps, for being a guest of this podcast, for making it to the end of the podcast. You're a real one. And we want to give you a gift by letting you join our challenge in the new year so you can become our next success story. So you can be incredibly proud of your fitness, your health, your physique, and you can just be your best version of yourself for 2025. So don't miss out on this. The last chance to enter, just message us on Instagram with the keyword challenge. We'll see you Thursday for the first episode of 2025. Peace out.